The year 2000, a new millennia, the start of the Y2K movement, and the rise of urban counterculture. The future was unknown, but for many, it had already come. In this exciting period of time, the video game industry would enter a staggering stage of innovation and experimentation and the release of full 3D hardware on the market, specifically the PlayStation 2. Developers left, right, and center would enter the charge into this experimental space, eager to present their ideas and stories in hopes of cementing themselves into this rapidly growing medium. But out of all the developers fighting for a seat at the table, no other company would try to lead more than Squaresoft. By this point of time, Squaresoft had already been crowned the leaders of the JRPG space. Final Fantasy and later Dragon Quest with their merger with Enix, shaping the very foundations of the genre itself. But Squaresoft was still experimenting with all kinds of genres, just like everyone else. Horror with Parasite Eve, tactical RPGs with Front Mission, racing games like Racing Lagoon, and even fighting games with Tobal 1 and 2, and Ergaze, God Bless the Ring. Just before the PlayStation 2's global impact, Squaresoft would begin development on a new project. A project that would go on to lay the very foundations of the character action genre, and serve as the next step in cinematic presentation in video games. A project they were calling the Playable Action Movie. Originally released in Japan in December of 2000, and later released in NA in Europe in June 2001, The Bouncer was developed in partnership with Dream Factory, who had already worked with Squaresoft in the past to release the Tobal series in Ergaze. Produced by Shinji Hashimoto, the current series director of Final Fantasy at the time, Hashimoto would convince his colleague of Final Fantasy VII fame, Tetsuya Nomura, to provide character designs and story beats for the project. With it being the first international title to be released by Squaresoft on the PlayStation 2, The Bouncer received an astounding amount of press leading up to its release. Many believed it to be a marquee title for the console. But after the reviews rolled in, The Bouncer got bounced.
The Bouncer
Takes place in the city of Edge, a near-future urban sprawl controlled by the Mikado Group, a multinational conglomerate excelling in fields of robotics and energy resources, currently initiating plans for a new satellite energy system. Now, on the surface, it would seem that Mikado is helping Edge flourish. The city itself has long been considered a warren of desperation and corruption, street gangs and syndicates free to roam its streets, and rumors that Mikado itself is tied into everything. The story for our Playable Action Movie focuses around three characters, Sion Barzard, Volt Kruger, and Co., who work as, you guessed it, bouncers for a bar called Fate on Dog Street, widely considered to be the most dangerous part of the city. It all starts on a snowy night in spring of all seasons. Sion's friend and colleague Dominique drops by the bar to drop him off a necklace, the newest piece from his favorite fashion brand. But little does he know, the shift would come to an abrupt end, tying destiny together with Mikado Group's master plans. Suddenly, a group of, leather ninja soldiers crash into the bar, and our bouncers are forced to do what they do best. This, of course, gives us our first taste of gameplay. The Bouncer's overall game flow is cut into two halves, combat sections and story sections. combat sections are carried out as one of the 3 playable bouncers, whilst the other 2 bouncers are controlled by AI. The combat itself plays quite similar to Dream Factory's other titles, being a 3D arena beat-em-up with 3D fighting game mechanics, similar to Tekken and Virtua Fighter. High, mid, low strikes, throws and jump attacks, even special moves are tied to a unique system that allow players to strike enemies in the air and even throw them into other enemies to cause more damage. This ragdoll-like juggle system would be the first of its kind to be implemented into a 3D arena environment. However, the most unique part about the combat is that all the attacks mentioned are tied to pressure-sensitive button commands. This is quite significant, as the bouncer would be one of the first games to utilize this brand new technology introduced by the DualShock 2, again leaning into the level of experimentation that the early 2000s was known for. But unfortunately, these experimental controls would become most of the bouncer's criticism, being quoted as clunky and awkward, when really, it was an implementation of a brand new technology, something that had never been seen before. In the end, people just weren't able to adapt to it. The second half of gameplay plays out more like a sort of pick-your-own-adventure book. After the main goal of a combat section is completed, you'll be treated to that section's story cutscenes, and then be given the ability to choose who you want to play as next in the preceding combat section. This is what the bouncer likes to call the ACS system, or the Active Character Scenario system. You are also given the ability to spend bouncer points through what is called the PES system, Point Exchange System. It essentially acts as EXP to increase your level, bouncer rank. You can unlock new moves this way too. A nice nod and implementation to Squaresoft's and ultimately Shinji Hashimoto's RPG roots. Unlike an RPG though, the bouncer points you obtain aren't automatically shared with the other party members. You're only given the ability to assign your bouncer points to the character you last chose. The PES system would ultimately be one of the game's biggest criticisms, but I don't really think that's fair. Primarily, the bouncer isn't an RPG. It's a cinematic beat-em-up, and at the time of its release, there weren't any action or beat-em-up games that allowed you to continually expand your character's moveset. Generally, you had a base moveset, and that's it. The bouncer had successfully created a system that would shape the very fabric of action games for years to come. Speaking of innovation, the prior mentioned ACS system was also the first of its kind, a system that organically allowed the player to choose the perspective of the story and learn about the characters they want, without necessarily having to focus on the poster boy. That being said, it's not without its quirks. Due to the ACS system giving you story content at the beginning and end of a combat section, if you switch characters mid-playthrough, you will lose story information for that character. So, if you've gotten this far or wanting to try the game for yourself, I recommend sticking to only one character throughout a full playthrough. For the purpose of this video, I mainly played through Sion's route. After all, he is the man on the box. However, it is recommended to complete at least one playthrough with every character to experience the whole narrative, and a few secrets too. So, with that being said, let's bounce back to the story. After the brawl, Sion is devastated. seeing Dominique captured before his very eyes. And to add to that, Volt reveals that these soldiers were actually operatives from Mikado. With this new information in his mind, the next step seems clear.
Let's go to Mikado.
After a rather mysterious conversation with one of Ko's contacts, our bouncers have a way in. A special cargo train is scheduled to leave from Central Station in 30 minutes. And the best thing is, it's going straight to Mikado HQ. And with complete disregard to their workplace and duty of care to the customers, the three bouncers are on their way. As they approach the station, Sion and company soon find out that hitching a ride on this train isn't gonna be easy. Rent-a-cops and station security are already on alert. Our bouncers are left with no choice but to fight through and make a break for it. With mere moments to spare, they manage to make it on board the cargo train, with security hot on their tail. Fighting their way to the front carriages, they're stopped by the train's commander, a lady who appears to be an old friend of Volt's.
If you don't have a ticket, you're gonna have to pay. And this ride ain't cheap.
Where did you take Dominique?
So nice to see you again, Echidna.
Is that you, Volt? I thought I finished him off.
Indeed, but I'm not the Volt you once knew. Now it's your turn to take a trip to hell.
This time, I'll make sure I finish you off, along with your friends.
After defeating Echidna, the bouncers aren't out of the woods yet. An entire squadron of fighter jets is sent out to destroy the train before the intruders can reach Mikado HQ. Not only that, the train is filled with rocket fuel. This time, it's a fight against time itself, as Sion and the boys of Bar of Fate rush to find a way to decouple the last carriage and get off the train before it crashes straight into headquarters. Thankfully, Sion finds a keycard that allows him to detach the last car. And as they jump out the train at the last moment, it explodes in an inferno. Needless to say, there's no turning back now. The element of surprise is long gone now. Sion and crew instead have to fight their way through the security station and lower levels of Mikado HQ. After making ways to most of their security payroll, they finally make it inside the main building through an emergency exit. It's actually quite robust, with a whole shopping complex and what looks like to be a residential district. But this isn't the time for deals. Guards on air carriers are still out looking for our bouncers, and they need to find a better way to get a look at the complex and search for Dominique. So, Sion proposes an idea.
What now? We'll hitch a ride.
Oh, what a wonderful idea.
So should we just go up to them and say please? We'll look for a chance to jump on.
After hijacking an air carrier, the bouncers finally get a full view of the complex and, Nomura, come on, man! Thankfully, Sion's little stunt paid off. He finds Dominique inside the central dome of the complex. That is, until the driver decides to clock out early.
Huh?
He's fine, by the way. Volt quickly steps in to take control of the air carrier and try and get them closer to the dome. But as you can imagine, things don't quite go so well.
Hey, you passed it!
Damn it.
It's here we get a proper introduction to some familiar faces from the bar.
I knew he'd be here.
It's you!
How does it feel to have your woman taken away from you?
I'll save her after I bust you up.
Unfortunately, that's not how this story goes. Here, we have the advantage. You don't stand a chance. You will never get the girl back!
That freak of nature was Mugetsu, a first-class elite agent for the MSF, Mikado's private military. You'll be seeing quite a lot of him in subsequent playthroughs. That being said, I'd like to take a step back and just acknowledge the technical prowess that was going on there. Considering this was one of Squaresoft's first projects with full 3D in-engine, real-time rendered cinematics, the level of expression on Mugetsu's model is incredible, and is another prime example of how the bouncer's influence is seen today and through Squaresoft's other projects. Keep in mind, this game came out a full year before Final Fantasy X, which is considered a technological breakthrough in the early PS2's lifecycle. Bouncing back to the plot, after dealing with Mugetsu, the gang finally have a way inside the dome. But Sion recognizes a particular song being played within.
That song.
How mysterious. How melancholic. Don't worry too much. We'll be seeing more of her later on. What's more important is what comes next.
Wong, transfer Dominique to the Gallios. We will proceed according to plan.
But the satellite control center has not been repaired since yesterday's explosion.
What do you mean, Wong? Dominique has returned. It is now possible.
But
As Chief Executive Officer, I order you, Wong.
I beg to differ. My allegiance belongs to your predecessor. You are only using the Mikado group to fulfill your own selfish agenda. What would Master Mikado think of your abuse? Please, for your sister's sake.
Then do you intend to stop me by force, Master Wong?
That's Dauragon.
Why's that old geezer fighting him? Master?
Rufus Shinra is the newly inaugurated president of the Shinra Electric Power Company. After his father's passing, he takes up reins as the head of the corporation. Wait, we're still talking about the bouncer, aren't we? If it wasn't made extremely obvious yet, the bouncer shares some very strong parallels to Tetsuya Nomura's other cyberpunk work, to the point where people were calling the bouncer Final Fantasy VII Lite back in the day. Unlike Nomura's sword-wielding spiky hair protagonist, Sion actually shares a direct connection to the newly revealed main villain, Dauragon, and his martial arts teacher, Master Wong. What this mysterious connection is, I'm going to leave a mystery for now, to incentivize you, the viewer, to play this game and find out for yourself. After more events unfold, Dauragon decides to take on all three bouncers at once, with a handicap. Of course, he soon realizes that this wasn't such a good idea.
Apparently, I have underestimated.
He even goes as far as to acknowledge Sion's strength, but of course, he isn't going to give up Dominique so easily. In a nasty trick, Dauragon activates a pitfall in the middle of the room, sending our bouncers hurtling towards the lower levels of the main complex.
It is almost time, Dominique.
At this point, the bouncers find themselves split across the maze that is Mikado HQ. The plot also branches off into separate paths, depending on what character you choose after the Dauragon fight. For the sake of self-discovery, I'll be leaving this part out, but don't fret too much, as the conclusion of each path is always the same. The bouncers bust their way through to the upper levels Shinra style, and reunite not only with each other, but with a familiar ninja.
How's my neck? in shining armor. You'll pay for that!
Sian, I thought I told you to stay sharp.
That hurt really, really bad, Bolt.
Oh?
You look pretty spiffy in that outfit, Ko.
Whatever. Well, looks like we got a team together.
Don't make me angry! You wouldn't like me when I'm angry! I don't care if I destroy my mind! As long as I slaughter all of you!
The voice acting for Mugetsu is just great. Probably one of my favorite performances out of the entire game. Unfortunately, he doesn't stick around for too long, as he gets beaten to a pulp by the bouncers once again. Finally, Sian and Dominique reunite, sharing a warm embrace.
Sian!
Always getting me in trouble. You had me worried.
This is the first time you ever hugged me.
That's what I'm talking about. This shit means something to me, man.
Unfortunately, this loving scene has to get cut short. Sian and the gang are not out of the woods, or rather building quite yet. And Ko makes a very good point.
Great, but which way do we go?
It seems their only way out is up, as Volt suggests they make their escape through the rocket tower, the base station for Mikado's satellite launches, an air hangar for the previously mentioned Gallios. With no objections, everyone starts to make their way. Before we continue, I'd like to take a moment to focus on this particular scene in the elevator. From a story perspective, there's not a lot going on here. It's merely filler to get you to the next gameplay section. But from a technical perspective, this scene represents one of the strongest showcases of the groundbreaking cinematic techniques and technologies found in the Bouncer. There's actually two technologies being showcased here. The first is a real-time rendered soft lighting system, later coined as the bloom effect or light bloom. In this clip, the light isn't only shining on Sian's and Dominique's face, it's bleeding into its surroundings, further increasing its believability and overall atmosphere. Another strong example of this can be seen in the train sequence at the beginning of the game. The second is the use of a live rendered depth of field filter. The Bouncer's engine allowed its cutscene directors to naturally change and blur the foreground and background elements of a scene to allow specific focus on characters or other points of focus, as seen here when Ko and Volt run into the blurry unknown. To illustrate how insane this was at the time, the use of depth of field is generally relegated to real-life cinema cameras. While the effect is present in some pre-rendered animation, the use of it in a live-rendered environment had never been seen before. With these two technologies combined, the Bouncer would serve as a benchmark for the PlayStation 2's capabilities, and also set the standard for cinematic presentation in video games. At this point it would sound like I'm glazing the Bouncer to no end. And yes, whilst it does serve as a significant advancement in technology, it's also not without fault as a video game. The next gameplay section is by far the biggest encapsulation of the Bouncer's flaws and criticisms given at the time. This section being the Rocket Tower Escort. Oh man, where do I start? The first problem is that Dominique takes Sian's words a bit too directly. She sticks to you like glue, getting in between you and the enemy's attacks. What makes things even worse is her health pool is very small compared to Sion, who is an almost fully leveled character at this point in the game. And that's not all. For whatever reason, Dominique has the same properties as the enemy, meaning she takes full damage from Sion's attacks, and if she's knocked down into a ragdoll state, she takes double damage as well. You're constantly having to navigate around Dominique to make sure she's behind you at all times. Another criticism is the newly introduced security robots. Up to this point, all enemies such as the security guards, MSF agents, and even the dogs were fully interactable with the Bouncer's combat system, with their own unique juggle properties, guard points represented by the colored dots beneath the health bar, and the ability to be thrown. The robots ignore all of these properties. They can't be thrown, they don't flinch, and their guard points never break. Of course, the general health pool is also double of any enemy seen thus far, and they deal the most damage too. The only effective way to get the upper hand is to use moves with enough hit stun, so the robots never have enough time to launch an attack. The Bouncer's highly interactable and fast-paced combat system grinds to an absolute halt as you're forced to tackle enemies one by one to avoid getting surrounded, a genuinely rare situation in this game. But by far the biggest fault of the Rocket Tower section is its length. Most combat sections of the Bouncer are very linear. Whilst that in itself could also be considered a criticism, the main offense here is that for whatever reason, there's multiple dead-end paths, filled with more robots to whittle down your health. Keep in mind, there are no checkpoints or health pickups in the Bouncer, so if you die at any point, you have to attempt the entire sequence again. For reference, it took me 3 play sessions to complete this section and record enough varied footage for the video. For my pace, that's about 2 hours. An average singular playthrough is 4 to 5 hours. That's right, most of a run's playtime is spent within the worst section. From this gameplay segment alone, it's clear why critics at the time were inclined to give the Bouncer nothing more than an average rating. With how boring the enemies are and the general clumsiness of Dominique, it would also be easy to claim that the controls were clunky and the pacing disruptive. If the pace seen in the introduction of the game was kept the whole way through, then the Bouncer's reception could have been very different. Anyway, with that section finally over and done with, we can move on to the finale of the game. Immediately after leaving the Rocket Tower, Sion and Dominique are surprised by an android called PD4, another one of Dauragon's pet projects. He manages to get a grip on Dominique, but thankfully only puts her to sleep. It's not all bad though, as Vault and Co. arrive just in time to give him an ass kicking. As a boss fight, PD4 isn't that much of a challenge on his own. With all 3 Bouncers in the fight, you can get the jump on him pretty easily. But unfortunately for our Bouncers, it looks like Dauragon's already moved to mass production. The odds take a swift turn for the worse. That is, until something completely unexpected happens.
Sion!
Dominique.
You bastard, you're still alive?
Of course! But right now I must bring the girl to the giant shuttle Gallios where Master Dauragon is waiting. I'll finish you off after that.
No!
She is Dauragon's dead sister.
What? You're awfully well informed, Volt.
Dauragon, the present CEO of Mikado, had a younger sister who lost her battle with a terminal illness. Using his position as the head of Mikado, he spared nothing to bring her back to life.
You're lying!
I was a personal guard to the previous Mikado.
No wonder you know so much.
It doesn't matter whether you believe me or not. Right now, she needs you. Sion, I think you need her too.
We're gonna go save Dominique, right? Or else we'll never know the truth.
Let him cook! Let him cook now! Let him cook! I said let him cook!
Even after that massive bombshell, Sion is determined more than ever to take back Dominique and bring her home. But as if the rocket tower section wasn't torture enough, Sion and the gang are suddenly attacked by more security robots. At least this time you have the gang to back you up, making things a bit easier. As the bouncers move further towards the Gallios, they're stopped by Echidna, who's itching to settle the score. We find out that Echidna's main motivation was to become the personal guard for the new president of Mikado, Dauragon. Ironically, it wasn't Volt stopping her in the end, but rather Dauragon's own weapon projects. After knocking Echidna off the corporate ladder, she reveals that the Gallios is already being prepped for launch. But as it takes off, a group of unknown airfighters start attacking it, slowing down its ascent. In the chaos, Ko spots one of their old friends, an air carrier. As the bouncers jump on, Volt clumsily pilots the air carrier towards the Gallios, hoping to catch it before it leaves atmosphere. But of course, it's never that easy. Mugetsu, who's completely lost his sanity at this point, jumps onto the air carrier just as it's about to reach the Gallios. He wants to end it here, once and for all.
I can't wait to butcher all of you!
I hope you've liked hearing Mugetsu's theme when he shows up, because this is the last time you're going to hear it. Before we continue, I wanted to point out something I thought was really cool. Even with the game brightness turned all the way up, you can barely make him out in this fight. Now, while I don't think this was intentional on a technical level, thematically it makes complete sense. Think about it. Mugetsu, a bioengineered elite ninja assassin, filling out his final mission. In what environment? The one he knows best. The complete cover of darkness. Keeps in line with his edgy, nothing personal, kid attitude, you know? But the one thing that ties this little theory of mine together is the fact that he dies in the complete blindness of light.
No, it's not over. It's not over yet. I haven't...
Meanwhile, on the Gallios.
Let us begin, Dominique. We will start with that accursed hospital.
after straight up nuking the hospital that once refused to treat his biological sister. It's clear now that Dauragon must be stopped, not just for the sake of Dominique, but for the world. As the bouncers venture deep into the galleos, they're stopped by another one of Dauragon's allies, the mysterious shape-shifting panther who's been following them since the beginning of the journey. As you begin to fight it, you'll notice that the panther transforms into someone we've seen before, the piano-playing lady that was with Dauragon in the dome. Once you defeat her, all is revealed.
Sion. You don't recognize me, do you? Now that I'm so much older than you.
No, that's impossible. Kaldea?
Mikado staged my death and erased my existence.
You're saying it wasn't an accident?
They experimented on me using bionoid technology so that Dominique could become more human.
Bionoid technology. Dauragon, you didn't.
I pity him. It is so sad.
Him?
Dauragon. He's lonely. I must be by his side.
I've no need for such pathetic sympathy from a bionoid.
Bastard!
Stop it, Dauragon.
With this satellite, I will provide unlimited energy to those who will follow me, and I will demonstrate what happens to those who cross me.
You're going to rule the world with a satellite?
Human beings want to be controlled. They forsake those who offer no benefit. Mankind's true desire is to be dominated by absolute power!
Dominique, stop!
What's wrong, Dominique?
I don't think your sister agrees with you.
Sister? This useless puppet?
You're the one who created Dominique!
I'll take you on with both arms. This is your reward for being such a nuisance!
This is unforgivable, Dauragon!
While we may be nearing the end of Sion's route, it's not the end for the bouncer as a whole. To bring back the ACS system I explained in the beginning, there's still lots of unexplored story here that can only be accessed in certain scenes played with the other characters. I've even abridged the showcase of Sion's route to give you, the viewer, the experience of discovering the answers to some burning story questions. Despite its relative nicheness, the bouncer is still quite cheap on the second-hand market. Even with its flaws, you really do owe it to yourself to experience a part of cinematic history in gaming. If nothing else, it serves as a precursor to Tetsuya Nomura's evolving character design, with Sion becoming the biggest inspiration for Sora's design in Kingdom Hearts. If you've ever played Kingdom Hearts, the concept of Trinity attacks or effects was also inspired by the bouncer. With Dauragon being the final fight, he of course has a second phase where he takes off his coat and reveals his cool overalls. Despite his slightly less intimidating look, he still puts up a huge fight. Your health carries over from the first phase as well, so if Dauragon's already knocked out your party, it's just you and him, duking it out to the very end. Whilst the bouncers were fighting Dauragon, the Gallios continued to ascend into space. Thankfully, with Dominique being literally hotwired into the Gallios' computer, she finds out in her dreams that the rear of the ship can detach back to Earth. Everyone has faith in Dominique's dream, and they let her do her thing.
Sion, that horrible dream was real, wasn't it?
Don't worry. You won't have any more of those dreams. Rest in peace, Kaldea.
And that's it. Dominique and the bouncers managed to get back to Earth and return to their daily jobs. No ethics debate or questioning of her identity as an android. Sion just accepts her as who she is. But even with Mikado out of the picture, Sion has one final thing to do.
Hey, boy, can you put that on my tab? Bouncers can't be sleeping on the job.
Yeah?
You're wearing it!
Isn't that what a pendant's for?
I'm so happy. Thank you, Sion.
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you.
What is it?
Thanks.
For what?
Thanks for the pendant.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Despite its length, this project is actually my first attempt at making video content. I've learned a lot in the process, and I'm excited to bring out more. At this stage, I'm not sure what direction this channel is going to go, but what I am sure of is that there's plenty of other pieces of media that I'm dying to talk about. Of course, it'd be much appreciated if you showed some love and interacted with the video. I'd love to hear your own thoughts on the bouncer and the overall experience. I've been Altus, and until next time, keep it easy.
Who are you?
Dominique. Dominique Cross. What's your name?
Me? I'm Sion.
Sion Barzad.
Sion,